Good morning, guys. Welcome to Employ. So welcome for this webinar. As we begin, let's just do some house rule, whereby all your mics should be off, kindly. In case of any questions or any comments, kindly just go to the comments section and write your questions. So my name is Eva from Employ. We'll be hosting, this is our second webinar. We started with the first one on masterclass, and now this is masterclass on CV. The second one is on employment to entrepreneurship, whereby the main agendas for this webinar will be why opt for entrepreneurship, your journey to entrepreneurship privileges, and successful startups during this crisis. We are joined with two of our speakers, who's Paul Kimani, who's the founder and CEO of Workpay, together with Maureen, who's the CEO of Usafi, and Sophie, who will be our host, who's the CEO of and founder of Employ. So Sophie, kindly take us through the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Eva. Hi, guys. Maybe we can have Maureen and Paul. I don't know if Paul is logged in. I can see Paul is actually connecting currently. Maureen had indicated that she's already logged into the... Maureen, if you're on, maybe you can unmute your speaker and say hi, because I can't seem to see you. That maybe I will just welcome you guys. Thank you for joining us today from job seekers. As you understand, most of the time job search and entrepreneurship are two sides of a coin. So at any time you are always either trying to look for a job or trying to start a side hustle. But a good number of times maybe we don't have enough mentorship and guidance to show us what is the right way so that we avoid as the many pitfalls we get into. And that's why we set out to look for Maureen and Paul. As you understand, we are a job platform, so we deal with a lot of job seekers. So a lot of them have asked for advice on how they can start a side hustle, how to effectively avoid most of the pitfalls a lot of young startups get into when they're starting their businesses. So of course, we figured out beyond helping people to look for work, we can also help them get the right tools for whatever aspirations they have, whether it's job search or entrepreneurship, whatever it is that you need to succeed, and you are part of our audience, especially during these very challenging times of COVID. How are we able to help you? So anyway, I can see Paul has already joined. Paul, can you hear me?
Hi, Sophie. Yeah, I can hear loud and clear.
Hi, Paul. Say hi maybe to the rest of the participants.
Hi, guys. It's good to see you. My name is Paul. I'm the CEO of Founder Workpay. So Workpay is a HR and payroll processing company. We are a software company. So what we do basically is we help companies to manage their employees from time all the way to processing their payments. It's good to be with you here today to have discussions, to share experiences, but most importantly, to learn from each other.
Oh,
thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. So guys, we settled on Paul because he happens to be an entrepreneur, I know, and I've also witnessed his journey, which has been quite impressive. Paul, I hope you don't feel shy. But Paul is, I think, the first Kenyan startup that has ever been accepted as accelerators in the world. So Paul has been part of that accelerator, I think, for back into the country recently. So I thought someone like Paul would be in a good position to give you guys really good insights. I don't know if Maureen has joined. Hi, Maureen, are you there?
Yes, Sophie, good morning. I'm here. I've joined the call.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Sophie.
Yeah, so maybe you can also say hi to the participants.
Hi, participants. Good morning.
Okay. We wanted to hear you guys about yourselves. I think Paul has said a bit of it, Maybe we'll go to Maureen. Maybe you can tell us about exactly what you do.
My name is Maureen Amakabane, and I am the founder of Usafi Sanitation, which is a local Kenyan company, and we build toilets for schools. So our solution for Usafi Sanitation is provided to really bridge the gap of poor toilets in most of the schools. I'm also the co-founder of Beyond Colors. Beyond Colors is a consulting company that works a lot with women-led startups and also youth-led startups. And what we do at Beyond Colors, we actually help organizations or startups really set up foundations for success. And subsequently, we also do placement, but targeted placement, because we also realize that there's a very big gap in terms of entrepreneurs being able to source for the right talent who will be able to drive the vision. And I'm also a creative person, intellectual creation, and I don't shy away from trying out ideas and monetizing the ideas.
I was having my side hustle again, like every one of us do. So I was running on the side of software development company. So what I would do is that I would develop software, simple things like website, mobile applications, on other side hustle. I actually developed my company's website via proxy. So just brought someone to present, do everything. I had briefed them, told them the question that I'm going to ask them. Eventually, I awarded them the contract. Yeah, I was the one who was doing it. So that was how I transitioned from working to employment. But it's never a black and white answer how you transition from or you are ready to now start your project. You'll, like most of you are doing, you'll try to do it several times and postpone it.
Okay, nice. That's interesting. How about you, Maureen? What pushed you from employment now to entrepreneurship?
Actually, it's a very interesting journey for me. I had never, when I was in campus, I was fortunate enough to really go right into the workforce. The company I was interning for hired me, and then I subsequently applied for work. And every time I got a job, I applied, or people just identified the skill that I had, and they offered me a job. So my last employer was very hostile in terms of the work environment was extremely toxic, and I was heading the marketing department. So for me, I'm a relationship person, and I'm a sales and marketing person. So I'm the kind of person who builds relationships, internal relationships and external relationships, because that is how I sell. So I'm also a collaborative leader. And that didn't really sit well with this organization where I was working. So they felt that I was a bit soft just because I was interacting with people. So I consistently used to feel a conflict of value, a value set where they were the authoritative kind of leaders. They were very assertive and aggressive, and even some point bordering on insults. And a specific incident happened where we needed to lay off 2 staff from my department because they got pregnant. Indeed, the company had that policy. However, I didn't agree with the policy because I felt it was a bit discriminative. So I stood up and I didn't give the consent as the head of the department to fire or to get the people fired. So I think that didn't sit very well with the management. And I think 2 weeks later, I got a firing letter. I was fired unceremoniously. And then I sat and I really balanced, and I thought, like, what can I do next? Because that experience, the short time I was in that organization, I really felt very conflicted. I think it was the first time where I really felt extremely conflicted. And fortunately, I was already running my side hustle, and this is really in consulting. I had people that I was interacting with in my professional space who were running side hustles, and they were struggling with sales and marketing. And that's my first career actually. And at the time, I think I was serving 2 people. One was a very senior officer in a leading institution, and the other one as well. So I quickly realized that a lot of people who are working in high influential positions were running side hustles, but they didn't have time to either sell their product or push their product. So I was already having these 2 clients, and combined, I was earning, I think, around 150,000 Kenya shillings from these two contracts. So I mean, so when I got fired, I just thought, why can't I just do this as a full-time job? And that's really how I started. And I keep on saying, I like saying that I really, you know, there's a lot of perceptions around the things that you need to do for you to sell. And I was able to really be authentic even in that space. Like, for example, a lot of people say like, oh, you know, you must wear makeup, you must wear lipstick, you must have this kind of presentation. But that's not my sales approach, you know? So I consistently used to, and I remember one time we had a very lengthy argument. You know, people always say like, I know some of the ideas that have been floated around when you're a sales or marketing person, people expect you to even sexualize the career. So you'll find like, you know, like people will do random things like I'll wear a short skirt when I'm going for this meeting because it's men who are the decision makers. I don't do that. So I consistently used to feel like I can still maintain my value set and still create value in the sales system. So I mean, I just packed my skills, I packed my confidence, and I started my consulting business.
I think it's interesting that you've handled also a bit about challenges that male entrepreneurs face, you know, expectations that maybe they're expected to behave or act. It wasn't even the questions I had thought about asking, but thank you. I hope that in the session I've actually noted when you follow certain steps, you are likely to succeed faster than when you don't. So like, let's understand, take us through this. You start by carrying out a survey, market research. Really, what would you advise is like, what you think from your own personal perspective is the right way to start?
I think the best way to do it, or rather the best way I did it, is that number one, you need to look for a real problem. The way you identify problem, there are a number of ways that you can do that. One could be an experience that you are going through. It could be, for example, where you are and clearly see that you can actually add efficiencies, you can reduce cost on what clients are going through, and you can build a business around that. So to me, the first thing you need to do is you need to identify a problem, and now look for build a solution around that. The way you do it so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you need an upfront cost, unless probably you are building a business, let's say, that really like hardware, those kind of things, you really need to start with. The best way you can do this, number one, is that probably you can build it yourself, depending on the skill set that you have. And then the other thing that you do is that you could have people who you can sell your idea to, and then you can found the business together. And it is really a very big challenge, especially for local entrepreneurs, to give part of your business to other people, and they become co-founders, yet you think they're the ones that came up with the so the best way that you can do is that if you can build it yourself, that would be fantastic. If you cannot do it, is that can get people who can help in building it, and then you can form a team together. Because the business or the idea is worthless if you're not able to execute it. So execution to me is 100% in terms of whether you're going to be successful or not. Then finances to me comes last. So like in my case, the way I did is that when we started Workpay just a few years ago, we started by building a consulting business. The reason why I started by building a consulting business is because I could do it without necessarily needing someone else. Actually, I started it in my house, and I started it with my wife, where she could sell, and then myself I could build, because I had that skill set. Then from that, building software for other companies, I was now to add more people. And eventually, when I was now ready to build Workpay, I had already existing number one clientele, and then number two, I had a team that could help in building that. But if I wanted to build Workpay, the way I'm doing it right now, probably I would have need to hire people. I would not have had that money to hire people. If I wanted to build it alone, it would have taken me a very long time to do so. But I started with what I had, and of course, I looked for people who would buy into my vision, and I of course gave them shares in my company, and then we were able to build them and confound them together. So I think that is very important, that you solve a real problem, Then after the problem, you can build a solution on top of that. And then lastly, look for people who you can build the solution with. And then you have to be very quick in the way you execute in solving the problem. So as opposed to what we think that the idea is everything to me way down in the pecking order for you to be successful as an entrepreneur.
Oh, thank you. I think what I find very interesting about your feedback, and both you and Marina have already answered a question that I already had about raising initial capital. And what is uniform about both your cases is the fact that you used your actual current skill set to actually try and get money organically from the market. You know, you offered a service, you fulfilled the need, and someone paid for the need for the service that you're offering. And that is how you build the capital base to now launch the large scale businesses that are actually currently running. That's actually a very important point, because I think the most significant question I get when I talk to young people and everyone is that we don't have capital. That's very interesting. And then there is another twist, Paul, you brought about. You spoken about solving a real problem. So of course, that's also maybe one lesson that we don't get a lot when we are being taught about entrepreneurship. Example we can talk about is the guys who sell bananas in traffic, okay? Right? Yes, it's interesting, and people are hungry and all that, but sometimes I just find it funny when I have 15 or 20 people selling me bananas when I'm seated in traffic, and nobody is selling me spiced bananas. Or I just need something different. Yes, I know I'm hungry, but I could always eat something different. So maybe we can handle that part on your view on innovation. There is need for someone to be innovative before they get into the space or not. But anyway, Maureen, now, did you ever go to raise follow-on capital, and how did you do that?
Sophie, that's a very interesting question you ask, and I'll answer it in two ways. And also, just to throw it out there, men are also victims of sexualization in the workspace. Just to put it out there, and I think it's because don't know that it's happening to them, but it also happens to them, by the way. So that was for another day. I just wanted to demystify that. But back to the capital question. Innovation, I think Paul talked about it at some point. Innovation is also how then do you also get, innovation can happen in the different processes, including fundraising. So there are different ways on how you can innovatively fundraise. And one of the things, before I went to this toxic work environment I was talking about, I had such a good experience working for a former boss who was also running a startup. And he's the one who convinced me that organizing your business and making it capital ready is another thing. Because in my tenure of working for this particular organization, we went through a fundraising process, and it was a grant that was being given to start in sanitation, which was it was a very new process, because a lot of funding or grants back in the time around sanitation used to only be given to NGOs. So the only reason we're able to get money is because the startup was ready for it. We had our books in place right from day one. The guy had his books in place. The guy had his sales record, and all this were being run at the time on an Excel sheet. So something as simple as just minting and documenting and putting down business processes is one of the things that can make you investor ready. Paul also touched on it. What skill set do you have? Because capital is not only money. Human resource is also capital. So what skill set do you have? What skill set can you borrow? What skills can you onboard as co-founders? That's a strategic thing that you need to know as an entrepreneur. So for example, right now, I'm innovating something to deal with COVID, and I'm not a scientist. In my surface sanitation business, I'm not a scientist, but there's a product that you're innovating. So I've quickly been able to partner with a licensed scientist so that I can be able to move that particular resource and be able to have a ready product to launch into the market. Those are some of the strategies. But back to the capital question. Number one, I used family and friends, by the way. So I was able to put my business in order such that when I approached, I mean, some of you, depending on where you come from, like I have friends and family who are at certain high-paying jobs, and I know their disposable income, for example. So I usually either ask for money in terms of capital, debt, or in terms of shareholding. So that's one of the things I've been able to successfully on my businesses. So where I've been able to, for example, like right now, most of my friends who are employed, the ones we started our journey with, are senior managers at organizations. These are people with 6-figure salaries, you know, and most of them are either looking for as an extra source of income, or they want something else to do because they have extra money hanging around somewhere. So if you pack your business in an effective way, people who are employed are options for fundraising. You need to be able to know, are you asking this money in form of debt, or are you asking in form of shareholding? So I've been able to do both approaches. When I relaunched Usabisho and I got my first project, I approached a friend of mine who was able to give me unsecured money at 20% interest. Remember, you don't have access to get money. So friends and families are a good option. If you're aware in the entrepreneurship space, you can also get venture capitalists, for example, or philanthropists. Like the common thing that Paul, Sophie, and I share, we went through a program that is sponsored by Nigerian philanthropist. So every year he sponsors 1,000 startups in Africa. Even if it's an idea, you need to be able to pack your idea, be able to understand what is the potential market size. So once you package your idea in that space, then you can start exploring venture capitalists, friends and family, but you should be able to worry also in numbers. You know, like for example, what is the population of Kenyans who don't have toilets? I think it's a very, I've tried as much as possible to give a very inclusive answer, because there's no like right or wrong. Yeah.
That is true, and those are very powerful lessons. I hope most taking notes. Anyway, I want to talk about regulations, especially with Paul, also Maureen, but let me talk with Paul first. Paul, given that you're in the fintech space, regulations can be a bit costly for founders. Even not just in the fintech space, there's always huge license fees, business permit fees, company registration. There's a lot of costs beforehand. How do you advise entrepreneurs who really have the passion and all that, but they really do not have the cash? What can they do?
Simply put, you have to be creative and you have to be innovative in the way you approach it. So, for example, if you are trying to in the fintech space, for example, and whatever service you are providing, the question would be around: are you able to, for example, hang on the shoulder of a giant who has already these licenses in place? Then you can use them. Are you able to, like, for example, have a partnership with a bank and where they're able to, for example, use their licenses where you can use their services, as opposed to you going for licenses. As Sophie is, remember that if you have to go early on for this license, you need to spend a lot of money upfront. And remember, you are probably testing an idea. You want to see whether it's going to work. You can even work with another startup that you think probably is in the space that you are doing, and they are not doing exactly what you are doing. Is that, can you ride on the licenses that they have already gotten, and you can and work on that. The other one would be, for example, the other regulated licenses, let's even things like, for example, work, the county government, those kind of things. So the key thing is that how are you able to operate and be on the side, good side of the legal work, and still be able to run your business without necessarily having to be affected by legal. So honestly speaking, in my opinion, I don't think the legal bit of it should be a worry so much when we're really starting up. Even if you're in the fintech space, I think there's enough leeway for people to be able to test things. A good case example would be even ESA, when they were starting, there were not very many legal frameworks to even manage how they do their business, and the government has worked with them with time. So I think you have to be in all this. I think the key is innovation. Like the Maureen has put it, that innovation, you don't see it only in the way you do your product. When you talk about innovation, someone might only be thinking, how do I tweak my solution to look awesome, and those kind of things. You don't have to waste a lot of time trying to get these regulation licenses, because it's not element of money, it's also the element of time. The first step is that you need to be able to move very fast. So you think that is one of you need to move very fast, test the market, come back, pivot or iterate, and again test again. So if you've been doing regulation for you that, you're going to waste a lot. Unless it's something that is totally new, something that can actually know people. For that, you have to go probably all the way to trying to get those regulations, and probably you have to figure out how do you raise some money to be able to do that. But I don't think on my head I can see something that you want to do in Kenya, that regulation is going to be a real blocker for you.
Thank you for that insight. I actually have a lot of questions to ask around challenge and lessons and all that, but I want to fast track this a bit, because I also know we have a lot of questions from the participants. Since we have only 1 hour, I would also like the rest. But before we move on to all that, I'm interested to hear about what your perspective is to start up, either currently running or they want to actually start right now during this crisis. What are like the best survival strategies you guys would have, or advice you would have for them? We can start with Maureen.
I attended a webinar just when COVID was starting, and the presenter encouraged us, and she said, don't waste the crisis. Like, what problem has the crisis created? And do you have a solution for it? It goes back to that. Don't try and create a solution to the crisis. Try and identify the problem and then develop a solution to fit to the crisis. And I'll give you an example. Last year, I had started a WhatsApp for my moms within the community. And then it only was one cluster, because I think women are trading, women cook from the house, women bake, we do all those kinds of things. You're making soap from the house, you're making all those kinds of things. Yeah. And then I was in a space where I had started hearing about this COVID issue sometime in November, but I didn't know what that was. And then in December, it escalated. And then in January, in some of the spaces, because I'm in sanitation, COVID was becoming such a reality, you know. And I sat in my house and I said, hey, let me systemize Soko, this WhatsApp Soko, such that in the event that COVID comes, these women can be able to deliver and supply food for our homes. And they live in the large community. And guess what? That is exactly what now the WhatsApp Soko is doing. We are currently managing 3 WhatsApp Sokos. All of them are full, 256, and women are trading. And I'll give an example. Most of the women who are, for example, selling chicken farmers, one lady came to the group and said, oh, you know, she had a very emotional story. And she said, oh, you know, my mom and I are in the farming, we farm for chicken. And because hotels are closed, now we have 300 cuckoos that you don't know where to take. And you know, I think they farm in stages. So I think this week they start farming and then the next week they'll be slaughtering some. So they were already panicking. I quickly called this lady aside and I said, do you see an opportunity? And she said, what opportunity? She said, people are still eating. So if I was you, I would quickly start looking at this as a market as opposed to a weird story that you're selling. Pack your product, put it in flyer, put it on the group and sell it as chicken. Not because what are not buying, because people are buying. People will still eat chicken. At the time when I was talking to her, it was in the morning, it was a Sunday morning, and she was like, I'm taking orders for Tuesday. She had 300 pieces. When she did the flyer, by evening, she already had 220 orders because the flyer was easier to circulate. So I think bottom line is, anytime you look at business and an opportunity, don't approach it from the place of voyeur or people will buy, people don't buy those narratives anymore. Solve a problem. And in fact, this particular lady now has actually identified a whole business, because she was in only produce for hotels. And I keep saying, where people used to eat in these lunch times, hotels, when you're at work, you eat somewhere, right? So we're just in our homes. So if you're bright enough and you can provide the food at home, then we can do it. So I think for me, it's an idea of how are you identifying the problems that are coming along, and also how are you solving problems that are coming along with this COVID. Back to the basic of businesses. The moment you solve a problem, identify a problem and you solve it, the opportunities will exist. So look at opportunity from a place of what problem are you solving and what is your solution and how are you doing it differently. So that's it.
That's really great advice. Paul, how about you? What would you advise?
So I agree with Maureen. So problems, there are always opportunities. So even this COVID, what COVID is doing is actually creating opportunities around us. And there are things that we are used to do them differently, and they are going to be things that are going to change fundamentally and forever after COVID. So the question is that, are you able to identify these problems, and are you able to actually see this problem going past COVID? It depends on what kind of business you are trying to run. Are you trying to build just for COVID, or are you going to build for the long run? So I think the question is that, are you able to identify a problem that has been caused by what is happening right now? I think we have had issues of people working from home. We have seen most of the companies that were either in ride-hailing or they were in e-commerce trying to merge, either they were in commerce trying to do food delivery, trying to do delivery for any other items. Those who are in ride-hailing, most of them try to add an e-commerce element by saying that most people are going to be working from home. People are required not to move around, but people still need this basic essential. They still need to eat, to use basic essentials. So it's us being able to see that. And apart from being able to problems, something also that is very interesting, like this time of crisis, I think I have read across on how companies are off employees. So I think to me it's a very, very good opportunity for business that have already started and those that want to start, for you to snap very good talent you can actually work with in the long run. Like, for example, if you know someone, for example, who has left a big company, you can approach them and you're able to, if there's a problem that you're trying to solve, you probably get a co-founder out of that. And then the other thing is that what happens with such a big thing is that, especially the very big organizations, takes time to organize. So, if, for example, a company that is in a thing can solve a problem, you don't have to worry about the big brand at this time of the problem. It will take them a few weeks for them to be able to reorganize. Are you able to move very fast before they reorganize and have a portion of the market and move? And then I think we have enough examples for companies that were started during recession or immediately after recession. I think most of companies, Slack, 09, WhatsApp also, I think, started around 09. That is after 2008. So if you look at those companies, they have a number of things that were common. Like what happened in recession is that I think I almost forgot is Airbnb. So what happens during recession is that people did not, of course, have enough money. So what was happening is that people are looking for sharing economy was born during that time. So I had a house that I was living in. I did not have money. Why not just give out my extra bedroom and people pay me by just coming to my room? What about just offering my car, kind of like Lyft? They started by carpooling. What about just offering my space in my car as I go to work and get an extra back on that? So I think it's the issue of being very open-minded and being very aggressive in seeing what is happening around you, and being very inquisitive and asking questions, even just checking on what you're going through, you as a person, and then being able to really move fast when it comes to again, speed is very, very important, because again, you don't know how long this thing is going to last. But I see opportunities every day, and I think if you are keen enough, you can figure out how to do it again. You have to be very creative and innovative on how you do it.
Okay, thank you for the insights, Paul. That is really good. Now, the final question I have for both of you is I want to get your perspective of the entrepreneurship on the next 10 years or so. The reason why I ask this is because Maureen has mentioned the support that we as founders and other founders we know in Africa have gotten from a philanthropist in Nigeria. Personally, I've gotten support from a good number of Nigerians and stuff. So I wanted to see, like, do we see our the ecosystem also in Kenya maturing and to that level or even surpassing it? What I'm asking that is, just recently when COVID broke out, there was a list of funds that are there for COVID solution. And I went through that list and I said that our country had only one fund available, and it by USAID, who are also giving every other country. So Nigeria had like 9, South Africa had really a lot from just individuals, foundations, and it was very aggressive. So I was just wondering, where do you see the vision for African and specifically Kenyan? I'm more interested in my mother country, Kenyan entrepreneurship in the next 10 years. We'll start with you, Paul.
I lost when you were starting, so I did not get the whole.
Oh, yeah. So I was asking, what vision do you see Kenya, African specifically Kenya, having? What vision of entrepreneurship do you see over the next 10 years? I was saying this because I feel like we have other ecosystems like Nigeria and SA that are quite aggressive. I don't know if they are ahead of us right now, but one of the things I was using as an indicator was Maureen just mentioned that we've received support from a Nigerian foundation, previously. And also the other day when COVID just broke out, there was a number of funds that were there to support COVID solutions, and countries like Nigeria and South Africa really had a lot of funds. Kenya had only one, which was also USAID. So I don't know, do you see this landscape changing for the better in the next 10 years? What changes do you see?
I think you just have to look what has happened in the last 10 years for you to go to tell what is going to happen in the next 10 years. So I think a lot has happened. You look at the kind of startups coming up from Kenya right now. I think they are way better quality in terms of chances of them going all the way up to exiting. So we might still have some ground to catch up, but I think we are moving in the right direction, especially from a startup funding point of view. I think a few years ago, not necessarily even 10, 3 or 4, we only used to hear the big tickets going to Nigerians and probably some South Africa. But right now, in Kenyan companies that are getting the big ticket size. So my only probably thing on that is that it's a challenge to us as what we call local entrepreneurs. If you look at like a place like Nigeria, you find all those, we have very, very successful local entrepreneurs who are really doing amazing things, and they don't have a problem, and they're actually doing it. But if you come back home here, you're able to count the stuff that are 100% locally led and that are really, really successful. You are going to find very few. And to me, it's us who are not probably aggressive enough. The Nigerians say that they eat breakfast and they confidence for breakfast. And when you interact with them, you actually see that. They speak their mind. They go for whatever they want to go for. I think we need to borrow a riff from them. You even saw the issue of Africans being harassed in China. They are the people who spoke first.
Exactly.
We saw the officials going head on with the Chinese. Yet our leadership here was just, I think that's a story for another day. They were just causing around with them, and they were not just, I think they just issued very friendly statements. And I think that also trickles down to entrepreneurs. So I think we need to be to be more aggressive. We need to go for those opportunities that present themselves. Again, we don't have to be the normal Kenyan where we always cry about what the government is not doing or how the environment is bad. The question is, what can you do yourself? I think, as Maureen said, if you have a functional business, if you have something that is really working, money is going to come your way, and you are going to at the end of the day, make it. But if you still have to do things the old way that you have been doing, you may not be able to cover the ground. But I'm very optimistic. In the next 10 years, I think we are going to have a few Kenyan startups exiting. I think that is going to open up. People putting money on probably small amounts of money, and then people gaining a lot. I think also there's the issue of there's not much. I'm sure there are people who have made money in startups, but they don't come out and talk about it for other people to be able to know. Like, for example, someone invested in your company when you're starting, when you are raising, let's say, your B round, the exit point, and they make a lot of money from. But I'm really optimistic. Maybe us to 10 years, probably the next 5 years are going to be really interesting as far as startups ecosystem is concerned.
That is true. Thank you for that perspective. Maureen, how about you? What is your vision for the continent?
I think my vision is it's twofold. Number one, the moment I got funding from Tony Lumelu, I bought into the Afri-capitalism idea. And Afri-capitalism is really is the idea of the concept. His idea, Tony Lumelu's idea, is that the next liberation from Africa will come from the private sector specifically. And I believe that. So I plugged into that vision, and I'll tell you how I translate it. So number one, we have to take personal initiative and personal process as entrepreneurs. So platforms like this should continue happening because the mainstream media will not tell our stories. So it's to start telling the true and authentic stories of entrepreneurship so we can encourage our people to get in. Secondly, I like what Paul has said. Where are the people? Where are the, like as an entrepreneur, as a Kenyan entrepreneur, I never just find local people wanting to invest in business. But today here I am saying, I had friends who invested in my business. I had family in my business. I have people, so those are the stories. But I think for us, it would be to systemize that process. Like for me, I think, Sophie, last time we're having a conversation is, can we implementing these business processes as opposed to family relationships? Then the stories will be heard and more. So I think the stories exist, but they're not documented. I think for me, it's just that formal process of documenting and saying family and friends are places where you can get money. And these are the people who supported my business. The point I want to put into place is we have to go back to our culture of giving back. So I think even in terms of entrepreneurship, Sophie, myself, Paul, do you loan out? Like recently, I gave out my first business loan to an individual who had seen an opportunity in printing, and she didn't have 6,000 shillings to start the business or print the business. So I gave her a loan. I trusted her, loan of 6,000 shillings. 30 days later, she paid me back at 20%. What are you doing differently? Are you the kind of person whom really, what is 6,000? It's not that I had 6,000 hanging around, but I had to trust this entrepreneur and check in with her and tell her that you can't start a business because you don't have 6,000 shillings. Yes, I was starting base with her, and guess what? She sold 70 copies, she made money, she paid me, and now she's doing her bit. So even as Sophie, even as Paul, let's not wait for Barclays. Let us also start having small funds within our either personal spaces or personal life, or even business. 10% of business proceeds will go towards funding small businesses. So I think for me, those are some of the unique things you need to start doing, entrepreneurs, because we can't continue saying that, hey, you know what, banks are not giving us money. It's true, but a bank will not give you money because the lending process is different. But after you've gone through that experience, what will you do differently? And I think that's what is different from Nigeria. Nigerians have multiple families that donate or are philanthropists and donate to entrepreneurs. So I think for me, that's one of the borrowed the Nigerians, So I'm heavily borrowing it and implementing it. So not only did I give the individual the 6,000 shillings, I'm consistently following up with her. Not structured, at least once in a week. I need to know how many books have you sold? What are the challenges are you going through? And then I'm telling her, yes, that is part of business. So I think just also taking ownership of what we feel should be happening around us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Now, I know our speakers are extremely busy and Maureen is only with us for like the next 3 minutes, but I want us to handle a question or two. So there is, first of all, is Otieno. How do you guys handle competition in such a space?
So competition will be there. And I think we've said this in many ways. How are you different? What are you offering differently? And are you niching your market? For example, running a WhatsApp group. There are very many WhatsApp groups everywhere in the world. But what am I doing differently? I'm vetting the people who are coming in. I'm consistently assuring people to continue trade, and I've created a safe space for people to trade. So I also arbitrate. That's how I'm doing different. So it's not a brilliant idea that I came up with. No, I just created a safe space where people can buy and sell together and generate income.
Okay.
So competition is one of the things as an entrepreneur that you really need to put at the back of your head. For information purposes, what are you doing differently? What are you doing differently? And who are you selling to? Even just deciding that you're going to sell to 10 people, a niche market, not necessarily 10, but just a niche market, is also a way of dealing with competition.
Okay.
Yeah?
So there is a second. Sorry,
yeah.
just finish.
Yes, go ahead.
So the second question is by William Techera, who wants to know what important skill can you advise someone who wishes to venture into entrepreneurship? So I think what important skill should they get? Maybe Maureen, you can answer that, and then Paul can answer one or two of our other questions.
Okay, so the skill, I think for me, it's you as a founder. You wear many hats, but the most important thing is you as a founder. Are you confident enough? Do you understand your business? I think the best for me, what has worked for me is being able to understand a business at the fingertips, such that I know what processes am I using, what processes am I outsourcing, and who am I going to. You see, if you understand your business, especially when you're starting up, you even know when to say no. Like at times I get offers for people to say, come and join this accelerator program. Then when I look at what the accelerator is doing and what my business is doing, and I see a total disconnect, I say no. So not only do you not understand the business that you can benefit, it's also so that you know where don't you want to go. Like for example, I think, and I like giving this example, there's a time I got an opportunity. I'm definitely fundraising for my business. But the time I got an opportunity for the business, and somebody wanted to invest in the business, but they wanted to take 70% of the business, and I was able to just outrightly say no, because I knew that would automatically change the vision. Because also a lot of people who come to invest in your business come with their own vision and mindset. So I think for me, twofold. I think there's a question that I'm seeing respond to before I sign out. Somebody is asking about the toxic work environment. I think there's nothing much you can do as an individual because it's most ingrained in the organizational culture. So it's very unique in the family setup businesses because people carry their drama and their family issues to work. But I think the most important is that you're aware of it for you to decide whether that's space or not. So it's such a personal decision, but yes, the idea of toxic workspaces still exist, and they can be vetting, or they can be very, what can I say, for lack of a better word, it also creates an environment that is not productive. It's very active. So I think if you're in a talk, you to solve such internally and make a very individual and independent decision. No wrong or right answer, because you're the one who's experiencing it every day. You're the one who knows how it makes you feel. You're the one who knows how it eventually will affect you. So the decision is purely yours.
Okay. In fact, I think quite a number of people have asked about the toxic work environment. Maybe we'll weigh the opinions and the questions that I've raised. If there are any questions that we've not addressed, I think we'll have the speakers, we'll forward this to the speakers, they will answer these questions, and then we'll send them back. So I think I'll just discuss the modalities for that in a bit. But Paul, I want to address someone here. There's someone called Hamstone. They're asking a question that I thought you just need to answer to this. They say the company I previously worked for has offered both current and former employees a challenge to come up with business proposals. Viable ideas will be funded. I'm interested in participating. Can you help me come up with an idea?
I don't know. It is interesting and a hard one, because coming up with ideas is not something that you sit down and start drafting ideas. This is the way I do it myself. Is that the way you come with ideas is that during your day-to-day life, for example, the way you go to work, the way you do your work, that's where ideas come from. It's not like you sit down and start now saying, I want to come up with ideas. So the best ideas that you can come up with are ideas that can that experience every day. And in the case of that, the person asking the question is that I think the best thing would to look at, for example, the company. What does the company do? Like, for example, like myself, we are in the HR and payroll space. So if you looked at what we do things and if we challenge, which I think is a great challenge, is that if someone came up with ideas, how do we efficiently probably help companies, employees to interact with the company, like when we have people working remotely. Those would be very, very interesting things to me, for example. So I think it depends whether the company is asking this is theming the ideas, whether they are themes like we are told to come up with an idea in this theme, for these themes, or they're just being left to think widely on any idea that they can come up with. And I think they are around us in terms of you just need to look around and see. But otherwise, like I have so many ideas that I can give, but do they really necessarily translate to what you guys are looking at? But because ideas, I think they're the smallest bit of running a business, in my opinion, because implementation is everything. You can start with something from something that is not necessarily what you intended, but by the time you're finishing, you find yourself with something different. So I'm not a believer of sit down and coming up with ideas. I'm a believer of experiencing problems, seeing people experiencing problems, and turning those problems into solutions, not the other way of coming up with an idea and now looking for a solution for a problem for that idea.
Thank you, Paul. I think that answers also a question that was not asked. In any entrepreneurship forum I go for, young people always ask, how do I protect my idea from getting stolen? And I think Paul has just said one thing that's very key. Ideas are not worth anything. Execution is where the magic lies. So yeah. Anyway, I think this has been really awesome, and I think Maureen has already logged off, but I think we've had a very interesting conversation. The participants can't seem to get enough of you, and there is a lot of questions about just a lot of questions. So I think what we're gonna do, in the interest of sticking to our timelines and our schedules, we will compile these questions and we'll share these questions with the speakers, and then the speakers will give us answers which we will share with you. So there are questions that you may not have asked, but if you are really interested in knowing the answer, just let us know. So there is that, and the other thing is the issue on recording. I saw a couple of guys to record. So of course the session has been recorded and we'll share out the link to the participants. So again, I would advise that interested in the link and the Q&A, please just share with us through email. I think most of you have our email address, phone number. If not, my colleague will type in the email address and telephone number so that we'll be able to share these details with you once the session is over. The question, toxicity and the issue of startups in the country, the issue of competition, the issue of challenges. These are questions that I've repeated here, and I think I didn't get time to ask those ones. So all these questions we'll handle them with the speakers. Alternatively, if there is need, if we feel an overwhelming need for another face-to-face session, you can also say that, so that we can organize for another webinar. Of course, we're gonna be organizing for webinars at least once a month. So just look out for your email alert, because we're gonna send out alerts and you'll be notified anytime the webinar is coming up. Email alert, or either stay connected to our social media pages. The email alerts, you only get them if you are registered on our website. So if you are not registered, I will advise you to register. I think we'll also type out for you the URL on the messaging here. What else did I want to talk about? There's someone else who asked about whether they can have access to the speakers. I think now I have to talk to the speakers with them issue of giving out their numbers or anything to the participants. And if the speakers feel it's okay and they think they have time to mentor you guys some more, I know they're usually really busy, but if they feel like they can squeeze in some time, we'll discuss that with them. Alternatively, one other thing we may also do for this, come up with some form of mentorship program that will just connect you guys to these speakers in a more organized program, okay? But those are things that we have to discuss out in time. I think that's all, unless anybody has anything to add into the session. So there's nothing else. I'd like to wish you guys a good day. It was nice having you guys. Thank you.
So guys, thanks for coming. You've had all. I hope you've learned one thing or two. In case there's anything more clarifications, you can just get in touch with us through our Telegram page, which will share the details on one of our social media platforms. For Facebook, we are at, our username is Employ. Twitter is at Employ Africa, IG is employ.co, and LinkedIn is employ.co. So yes, enjoy your day. And our website is www.employ.co. So if you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I thought maybe we can just post for them an easy sign up link. An easy sign up for those ones who've not yet signed up, so that they can get alerts once they register. So I just was stopping you from ending the meeting before we post the sign up.
Okay.
Which I'm posting right now.
Oh, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah, I've posted the sign up. So yeah, thank you, Eva.
Yeah, so for sign up, you can just sign up and kindly remember to register. With that, you'll be able to get quick alerts on whichever webinar we are going to do next, or any job sites, or just information that we need during this COVID crisis. So for now, thank you and keep safe. Enjoy your day.